I'm gonna try something new. I put out a very short book of poems, so I could probably just read it. You could skip around to wherever you like if you like the title of a poem. Snakes. Right, this is Ophiuchus, Hercules, Draco, and Ursa Minor. Other books by Trinity Lefay. I suppose I should not just read it to myself. I've written Transparence, Panacea, Ziltrion, Elemental, Lunar Meditations for Celtic and Norse Deities, Earthling, this, and now Tintinabulation and Versus. Kind of anthology, that one. Dedicated to my brothers, Joshua Ray, Jeremiah, Dylan, Dalton, Michael Thomas, Dakota Jack Allen, Taylor, Virgil, my first dead correspondent, Bob, whose descendants' names read like poetry, his junior, James Patrick Cheevers, whose virtues humble me, his senior, twin, older and younger brothers, Brian Van Meter, whose friendship tempered me, Jeffrey Gray and Cecil Eugene Burns, pillars, not of virtue, Daniel Deggs, living proof, Gordon Pryor, my reminder when I tired, Keith Wayne Johnson, my example when I mustered, Barry Sparks, whose grace I look for in elders, Drew Kekkonen, inspiration for any earthling, Jesse Shirley, the earthling that showed me, Padraig McDougall, Clinton Mitchell, Jeff Massengale, Nick Gruber, Michael Thompson, Phil Tran, Jeremy Monk Whalen, Arlo Kane, Chris Wells, and Alejandro the Younger for their artistic camaraderie, Greg and Ben, my literary guardian angels, Stan Ostrovsky, who brought me my husband, John Christian Andrews from Missouri. This one I dedicated to the men. It was Elemental. I dedicated to the women in my life, and I knew that I had to give it up to the guys. So here I open with a quote. He's all like, "You don't understand. She broke my heart." And I'm like, "Fuck you. He broke my nose. Twice." And this, I suppose I could tell this story. I was 15 years old, and I was staying the night at my boyfriend's house, some 20-something meth head with his roomie, and his roomie had a girlfriend about my age, and so we were up early in the morning, before the guys anyway, and we were sitting together in their apartment, in the living room, and she was telling me about the emotional distance that she felt from him. Oh, I'm glad I'm not 15. So, that was Citchimi. She was wonderful. Table of contents is Saying Goodbye, Artemis and Asherah, Real, Valence, How Can I Fight Beside You, 3 a Day, What If, Brahmin, The Burning Times, Skater, The Cost of Living in Denver, That's a Wrap, Newspeak, Things I Wish, Bluer Than Midnight, Reuniting, Acknowledgement, Peripherality, Mollusk, Retrospect, Goodbye to Denver Forever. This is the first book that I did of poetry, just poetry that I didn't do chronologically, but I did include the dates, so if you want to know what order I wrote them, figure it out. Saying Goodbye. That extra little lingering pause, a thesis, unread under an innocuous spark-colored leather cover, demands nothing but space. Artemis and Asherah. My mother's name was as distorted a descendant of the oldest goddesses we know of. The bastardizations trickle down, but the ancestors are lost. Her mother and sisters always betrayed her, daughter of art and ash. In a cruel world for girls, she clung to men that felt like protectors until her mind tore through the other side of them because she was a changed creature. No one wanted to talk about the men's interest in her, or the obvious lies about walking into doors, but she felt the guilt of every lashing out. Moreover, the delusion of staying. Kit Muldoon is dead. She had the worst hand dealt to her of anyone I've known. And she was bad at this game. That she was sharp and sensitive made things worse for her, but she understood that because she was kind, it was possible. In a speakeasy full of players, she laid it down unapologetically, and they respected her, because she was the best among them. No one wanted to talk about how sexually repulsive she was to the men who were all chasing the new girls, but she carried the fragile dignity of longing around for years amidst their bawdy laughter. The image of the goddess, as far as the voluptuous queen of heaven and earth, mother, is what we all know we are made of. Stardust condensed into planets and moons, plants and wounds, the miracle of replication, a division only felt in females. In a loud world superfluous, she waits to die in the eyes of a supermodel virgin mother. Otherwise, she has been dismissed as a conquest. No one wants to talk about patriarchy and global warming, the epidemic of rape and sexualization of children, but I was wrong to say no one because statistics disagree. We've only met a few times, but my mom is someone you remember well if you meet her. I've come to understand that some people care deeply about where they come from, and some don't. They both have very good reasons. She will never be well, but I believe she is alive. It is not likely we will meet again. She has left me precious little information. Kit endured, survived, and persevered. She floundered often, and with unique passion. She loved in a way that set the standard for bravery. She bore a son. In her struggle they grew until the tether became a violent drag she could not bear, but she just fucked up harder. The crone is missing from the Virgin Mother. Role models are absent. Drawing my elders to me, I take them one at a time, because they are all hermits in peculiar ways. Like me. Rivers that no longer meet the ocean, but remember what it was like. They try to tell me, but we know it will not be the same. I grew up watching a show where they said my mother's name. She was a beautiful, strong, feminine, powerful main character that looked nothing like her. Last I heard, she looked homeless enough to have to start recording her interactions with the police. I have her to thank for so much of me. She made my choice, and from 15 on, she was shackled with a burden she could not afford. She deserved a chance. But I guess she thought that about me too. Kit Muldoon was the best poet the world will never know. I don't mean the best poet I've known, but the best poet. Her words could reach into you, collaborate with your dreams to create emotional dances between your thoughts and hers, and in this, she was a master. The degenerative nature of her end made it impossible to keep track of anything. Great swaths of her prolific and important work are as lost as Alexandria to us. She left some with her son. Memories of the wise women are as defaced as their old statues. When I think about the scope of what has been lost, I lose track of what facet. Try to find the fundament behind this chronic imbalance, and know only I will feed no daughters to it. The environmental grace has been exhausted. Things are going to change. The crone must show her full face. Women must have full range. Man, I'm gonna need to drink water, and I don't have editing equipment, so intermission. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, I wrote that a while ago. I suppose I should read the dates on that. Saying goodbye was 6/24/14 and and Art and Ash was 12, 15, 16. So I got a carpet on this side. I just can't be bothered to make a perfect video, so you might see me adjusting this carpet on my side. 10, 18, 14. Real. Like, it was real. Movie real. R-E-E-L. Cold and cruel. Focus of this determined face, not on my face. Watches himself pump in and out of me in a homemade porn scene, unaware that I notice and care. Unable to separate as easy as he, this act from the feeling. Some of these are going to suck to read out loud, I realize now. 8, 27, 17. Valence. I am a giver, so it took a lot to ask. But when my oldest friend was finally made happy in the matrimony he'd given up on, I had to request that his bride in all her grace, beauty, and wisdom bless my heart. So chronically broken, in a ritual she invented as she went along. Like the rules of engagement in any situation, especially romantic, as so many shattered people made bombastic with unfulfillment, and wishes to never again need what they have not obtained yet. She circled round me 1,080 degrees, chanting what she saw through me. She took my hands from their permanent position and rotated them to orient them differently, saying, "You see, it's just that easy. You need to learn how to receive." I am a pleaser, so it was nothing at the time to give a fuck. The trouble was having it called lovemaking when it was anything but, for my benefit apparently, when it assists me none to treat delusion as a nicety or anything but optimally efficient lies of lines I resolved to not feed by ceasing to want it to be true. Instead, I stopped trying to be clear or understood entirely. Just listened hard to gain all the understanding I could from one who said he wanted to know me but didn't yet have the capacity. Rather, I got to glean through argumentative habits of challenge and assert until he tired of his cycles and bothered to inquire without being able to hear me out. Until I learned not to care anymore. I am a fixer. So it is a difficult thing I'm used to. Her pride at being denied the precious information I've overcome my well-trained inhibition to investigate in pursuit of solutions. I've a deeply ingrained resistance to disrupting patterns not mine. That is not the same as absence of recognition. Spiraling in became an art of expression I sought to perfect, a heedless devouring that couldn't end unless I did, and at last, again, I beheld the cruel clarity of goal orientation behind the veil, unknown enough not to seek, for view to examine from outside, where the things I pick apart come from. And I do, unnoticed by the unaware that they will be analyzed to death by the easy thing they're new to. Thirsty day. How Can I Fight Beside You? From the Fiona Apple song. Rocking out to this song around this time. 5/14/18. Temps, I think it was. Driving back from Golden the first few times, I cried and cried. I couldn't describe what was happening to myself outside of that. There was no good explanation for anyone else. I was alone. I had to get it out. But I was a hazard on the road if I couldn't see, so I kept telling myself to buck up and just get home, by which time I'd be numb enough that tired would take over and I'd let it. I didn't want to process this anymore. I told myself that's what I'd been doing, evaluating all that has happened so I'd be healthy again, as if I'd ever been, or reconciled maybe, since I'd never get even. But analysis wasn't going to keep me happy, rather inform and remind between epiphanies. I knew I didn't enjoy rape any more than I enjoyed celibacy, and if I wanted intimacy, I would have to risk. I had already come to understand that deeply. I didn't know how limited my studies were compared to what was out there. I saw what interested me. learned more about what I wanted to be, and took my enemies for allies versed in satire. I was ill prepared for each attack on me, until I started learning what was popular. Now I appreciate my situation as well as I can. How can I ever be happy if this is my position? Without the lie, that is not what I have to work with. I am ashamed that there was a next time at 30, in the same way I understood when I was 7, without anyone needing to tell me. Shame is not the same thing as responsibility, when being humiliated is a greater fault than harming. The guy who skull-fucked me in my 20s doesn't see that moment in other people's eyes when they look at him, any more than he was the one choking, any more than he went down on me, any more than he could regret, as I do, the next time. Over and over, men who seemed to want me to think well of them, it turns out, really didn't know how, because it was never real to them beyond what I could say to the next girl, who in pursuit of cool, wouldn't be able to hear me anyway. That solitary lesson is the price we each pay for our lack of solidarity. No one prepared me for the porn world I was born into. So intent on keeping me from being part of the subclass, there weren't many women around who got through. And even they never told me. No one deserves that. No one deserves to be treated that way. Of the many men around, there were even fewer who both thought it was wrong and were honest with me about who they were and what they believed. Being deceived is a global courtship ritual for all the hungry hopeful who find out how bad things don't happen just to special people. Then do them to women and children, and then we act them back out on each other because wealth tells poverty that is how power works, and without analysis we become that enforcing process, deriding youth for stupidity, need for weakness, victims for existence. Only survivors get taken seriously, they say. If you're still alive, you're stronger, worth more, but I think that our dead are worthy of respect. And I'm in no hurry to blame them again in death, as I have felt it all my life. Not like a law of attraction, not like the mercy I wasn't always given, but like a court document stapled to a letter I had handwritten. Like the jobs a smirking series of men refuse to let me in on. Like the derisive looks I get from men and women, no matter what I'm wearing. Like the eyes I feel on me that still my feet and hips from dancing. Like a gauntlet of attention that endangers me on the street. Or the dismissive look I've come to recognize in the eyes of men that assume I'm up for grabs and wouldn't buy me. I feel it every day. I think the dead are lucky. And their love's worth it, while it kills me. Walking toward our priestess with my husband at our wedding, my eyes were clear and dry. I don't have to have faith in God or man. I now have language to describe what is happening to me. I demand proof, truth, and loyalty.